Yeah, he's digital media. He really wants to be worship. Um, so he started out at yeah, right. He started out at no, I just stopped talking. Can you hear me? Yeah. I heard you guys talking tech. I was like, let me shut up for a second. Check, check, check. One, two. Hello, hello. Yeah, so I just logged on to your live stream. It's your video. Yeah. Yep. I just logged on to your live stream. Yeah. Yeah, audio's coming through. Okay.
What's up, everybody? How you guys doing? How you guys doing?
They're starting to jump back. I technically have a couple more minutes till they're even their
Yeah,
break.
we got a few people on.
If you're
so
here,
far.
you didn't use your time wisely.
A few people on so far, and hope that was a good first session for you guys. We're gonna have Aaron Holt with us for Q&A. We're still early. You have actually a break time if you want to take that, and our official start time is 10:05, but we figured we'd jump on a little early just to say hello.
Should I still be playing some fun little music?
Let's get a little mood music in the background. That's nice.
Glad you enjoy that.
If you guys are just jumping on, feel free to grab a drink, use the bathroom, whatever. Aaron is going to be with us at 10:05 for Q&A. You still got some time.
The day is moving.
I know, it's hard to believe it's already
10 o'clock already. I'm already starting to think about what you're going to order me for lunch, Jared.
You know what? That's a good...
You telling me you haven't started thinking about it yet?
I haven't thought about it, I guess.
Right. While I'm doing Q&A with Aaron, if you could just really focus in on what should I make for Mark for lunch.
Right.
You're not ordering in, right? You're planning on cooking for me?
No, yeah, I'll definitely be cooking. Absolutely.
All right.
We did have a question come in. This is a big one. This is, I think, for Mark. One of the young leaders said, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop?
Wow,
So,
that's a philosophical question.
honestly, Jason, we really weren't prepared to answer kind of
Yeah.
deep questions like that.
If I learned anything from a cartoon owl, it's 3.
I'm pretty sure that commercial, it's 2 licks and then just a straight bite with an owl beak.
If only we had owl beaks.
Yeah. Some more people jumping on. Hey guys, welcome. We are not officially going to get started until 10:05, but you're free to hang out with us until then. If you've got questions, feel free to text me. You can see the number, or you can just put them right in chat if you want to do that as well. I'm monitoring both, so feel free to do that. In the meantime,
Also, get out your personal device, go to YouTube, and subscribe to Better Student Ministry.
yes, that's great.
We have a little bet going on. If we get
100,000 subscribers.
if we get 20 new subs, Jared will shave his head. I haven't talked this over with him just yet, but
That is not true.
he will
That is not true.
he will
Thank you,
eat
Mark.
Scrapple on air.
If we have some, I definitely would do that.
Well, I'll find it.
All right, we got a couple questions coming in, which is great.
But seriously though, go like and subscribe our channel.
Some more people jumping on. If you guys are jumping on, welcome back. Feel free, if you have any questions that you want to ask Aaron, you can text them to the number on the screen there, or you can throw them in the YouTube chat, and we will make sure and get those to him.
It's a good first session. I can't wait. We're gonna throw some heat at Aaron today.
Yeah, I'm really looking to make him stumble on his words with the difficulty of questions that we ask.
We're gonna get real personal.
Yep. If Aaron doesn't weep by the end of this Q&A,
Yeah.
I consider it a failure.
Yeah. Our goal is for all of us to weep.
Yeah. I wept earlier already, just because I woke up at 5 a.m. thinking it was 7.
That would make me weep.
Yeah.
That would make me weep. All right.
Hey everybody, if you're jumping on, we're not going to officially start till 10:05, so feel free to get situated. If you got questions, you can text them on the number or put them in the YouTube chat. In fact, let me write something here.
Yeah, and if you don't trust your point leader or whoever's got control of the YouTube channel to send a text on your behalf, go to the channel, like and subscribe.
Mark's really selling this.
Well, we're gonna fill this room with Orbeez. I think that's how you get a lot of likes and subs, right?
Yes.
Jared and I are gonna put our hands on this microphone, and whoever takes their hand off first
Gets to keep it.
gets to win a Lamborghini, or however they do that.
I think they win whatever they take their hand off of first.
Okay.
Yeah,
You already own that mic,
I do.
so it's my chance to steal it from you.
All right, we got some questions coming in.
Awesome. I hope you guys had a good first session. Hope that lab time was useful.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we haven't heard from you, if you didn't tell us where you're at, we'd love to see in the chat where groups are at from across the state, so we can say what's up, give you a little shout out. That would be awesome. Got a few more minutes here. Anybody got good snacks at their meeting?
What is your go-to snack? We talk a lot about food, Jared.
Wow.
Why are we every?
It is our third love after Jesus.
All right, let me ask this question then. Going back to like youth ministry days, event days, retreat days, whatever they are, eat a lot of fast food typically.
Yes.
Where are you taking the students so that you can get something you like?
Well, when I was in youth ministry, there was no Chick-fil-A's around me, but Chick-fil-A is definitely my favorite fast food.
Your favorite overrated fast food place? Yeah.
All right. This is a great first discussion question in the next 2 minutes. Mark thinks that Chick-fil-A is overrated. We're gonna need some comments in the chat to let him know that he is absolutely wrong. So, how many of you guys like Chick-fil-A?
I didn't say I don't like it, but the way people talk about it.
Well, I mean, compared to what? McDonald's?
No, compared to a Popeyes chicken sandwich.
Yeah, I mean Popeye's chicken sandwich is good, but
Oh, Aaron's
it's
got
not.
something
It's the
he wants to
overall.
say.
It's the overall Chick-fil-A experience. I mean, when they say to you, "My pleasure," you just feel so great.
No, I don't disagree. The service is decent. It's good.
When I go to Popeyes, I mean, I'm getting stared down like I'm committing a crime.
Well, that's because they know you're about to steal their chicken.
Jason said God's chicken. Oh, Christy said Popeyes.
Boom. See, I knew Christy and I were going to get along.
All right. Anybody else? Let us know. Popeyes or Chick-fil-A? What's the?
Or is there
Another that we don't know
third
about?
option? I think Aaron lived in Hardee's territory. I don't know if they've got a good chicken sandwich or not.
Hardee's.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Hardee's?
Although I can't say I've been there many times.
Yeah. You go further south, you get into Bojangles territory.
I've been to Bojangles.
That's some
before.
good chicken too. But don't get Aaron started on Turkey Hill chicken sandwich. No, I don't know if they sell those in Turkey Hills. Sheets or Turkey Hill, Aaron?
He's typing in the chat. He did say Chick-fil-A is God's chicken.
No, I know. Everybody does.
He said
Oh,
Sheetz.
Sheets. Yeah, that's a good call. That's a good call.
Now I watched a reel where someone took Chick-fil-A mac and cheese, which is also incredible, by the way. They took a spicy chicken sandwich with no bun, but just a patty.
Chopped it up.
They chopped it up with the mac and cheese, and then they put it in a tortilla, like a Crunchwrap Supreme, and then griddled it. And then I was like, "That's
Is that a
next
secret
level."
menu item, or is that something you
No,
gotta do yourself?
they did it on their own, which
Wow, sounds like a lot of work.
yeah, it looked pretty incredible.
All right, we're 10:05.
Hey everybody, thanks for jumping on. I know we'll have a few more people here joining us, but hope you enjoyed that first session. We've got Aaron Holt with us, who was the speaker in that first video, director of Lead the Generation, great friend of Mark and I. So if you're just jumping on, we see a few more people getting on here. Welcome, guys. Welcome back. We're going to have a little time of Q&A. If you've got questions, and a bunch already have, feel free to text that number on the screen. That is my cell phone. Also, we'd love to get some pictures that we could post. So throughout the day of your gathering of leaders, what it looks like. So text those to that number as well. I'd love to see those, and we can share those. You can also, if you have questions, feel free to leave those in the YouTube chat. I'm monitoring both things. So we're excited. Can we welcome Aaron?
Absolutely. You're gonna give him like a great intro.
Well,
We're just gonna kick.
I just
Jim.
said he's a leader of Lead the Gen, and he's
Aaron.
a great friend.
There we go.
And he's a great friend. Aaron, what's up, man?
How you guys doing? Good to see you. It's really hard to know that my mic is muted when you guys are preaching blasphemy in regards to chicken and fast food and Scrapple and everything else. It's been testing on my patience here the last couple minutes.
Well, that's why we brought you in to set us straight.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's good to be here. It's good to be
Yeah,
here.
we're thankful. So we've got a couple of questions that have come in. Before we jump in, though, I want to do like a little bit of a starter question. That whole first session, the idea of getting to like really watch and observe our leaders, one of the things that you said, I think you were quoting from Mark's book, where you talked about how, like, at the end of the day, youth ministry is godly adults intentionally giving their lives to students, and you laid out some statistics of the impact that that has. And maybe
Yeah.
before we jump into some of the individual questions, could you just, you've been in youth ministry a long time, and when I hear that, like, I'm encouraged by the simplicity of that. So could you give us just a thought or two on your optimism about youth ministry and the impact that godly adults can have in the lives of students in your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just reflect on that. I initially, from a personal perspective, I grew up in um, a small, I would say a smaller church here in Pittsburgh, where we just recently moved back here, but I grew up here in a small church. And I had the same youth pastor from the time I started youth ministry as a sixth grader all the way through graduating from youth ministry. And I think during all of those 6 or 7 years that I was in youth ministry, I think the largest we ever were as a youth ministry was maybe like averaging 20, 25. Maybe every once in a while we'd have 30 more students that came. So, pretty, average size or maybe even smaller size youth ministry, meeting in the basement of the church, no bells or whistles, all just very basic. But my youth pastor was the one who made such an incredible impact on my life as a spiritual father. And that's not to say that my own parents didn't have incredible impact on my life. They still do. I'm a PK, pastor's kid. Weird kids unite. Let's go. um, but um, but man, even growing up in a solid Christian home, I still, when I reflect back, I still had great need in my life as a young person for spiritual fathers and for spiritual mothers in my life. My youth pastor filled that role for me in a very basic, very simple, smaller youth ministry here. And so, whether I realized it or not at the time, my own personal experience growing up as a student in youth ministry shaped a lot of my views philosophically in regards to what does healthy youth ministry look like, the focus of discipleship, the focus of relationships, and to what you just said, Jared, the role that a leader, volunteer leader, part-time, full-time, vocational youth pastor, wherever you are in the mix there, the role that a leader plays when they build relationships with students. I wouldn't be the person who I am today. My wife has the exact same story, different leaders, different churches, other side of the state, up here in Pennsylvania. She grew up in Philadelphia, but exact same story when it comes to being able to identify specific people that had significant impact on their life. And I think back to my youth pastor, I don't remember one sermon that dude ever preached. Not one. I mean, I might remember vaguely like an illustration here or there, like the extreme stuff.
Sure, yeah.
But I don't remember any of that. I remember the conversations. I remember the times he would pray with me. I remember, the times riding around in the church van, having really, for me, really in-depth conversations and being able to ask questions and explore my faith and being able to wrestle through stuff. And so that relational foundation was huge. I don't remember the sermons, but I remember the altar times when he was ministering to me. And then just as much as I remember the altar times, I remember him picking me up after school and let's go play basketball somewhere, and hang out together. So that shaped a lot of my view as a youth pastor. And when my wife and I started in the youth ministry, and I kind of reflected on this moment in the video about how one of my coaches called me out on how programmed I became in my view. And I was really focused on like the quality of the program. And so in my early years as a youth pastor, I really shifted away from my roots and I really shifted towards that, what I probably now would call like attractional church ministry model. Like we're going to wow you and impress you young people with, the quality of our program and our preaching and our service and our worship and all that kind of stuff. And ultimately, all that did was create a lot of frustration for me internally. But the end result after a couple of years was I realized we were not producing disciples. We weren't producing kids that were becoming fully devoted followers of Christ. And so I needed that coach in my life to kind of call me out and say, hey, you've lost your focus here and you need to regain the simplicity, to use your phrase, Jared, because I love the way you broke that down. The simplicity of what youth ministry is really all about. It's about godly adults building relationship for the purpose of discipleship.
Yeah,
That's good.
we had a couple questions come in, Aaron, regarding that exact thought, and it's simply like, do you have some strategies or some thoughts on how to practically build stronger relationships between adults and students? And some people in the questions express some of the challenges, things that they've tried, and it feels like maybe they're not making any headway. Or so, any kind of practical thoughts that you have, some suggestions on how to practically build those strong relationships?
Yeah. Well, and let me give you just a philosophical thought first, and then I'll throw some practical ideas out there. So philosophically, one of the things that I reminded myself of a lot, and that I always reminded our youth leaders of, is this real simple phrase. Um, Kids usually won't talk with you about spiritual things until they know they can talk with you about anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so being willing to be patient in the relationship building process then becomes paramount to us having relational influence or relational authority in the life of a student, right? So we're all good intentioned as adults who work with students, and our intention means that we want to get to discipleship as quickly as we possibly can. And that's not a bad thing, right? We want to get there. But sometimes we fail to realize, like, it takes time.
Yeah.
And so if I spend my time talking about whatever, like whatever junior high boys want to talk about on any given, youth night or small group night or whatever the girls want to talk about, that's not a waste of time. I'm laying a relational foundation. So I think philosophically you have to start there, or else you always create frustration for yourself. Practically speaking, here's what it looked like for myself and for my wife. When we started in student ministry, we had a toddler, and then very quickly after that, we had our second, and we had our third. So youth ministry for us was right in the midst of those really difficult parenting years when you're, having babies and raising babies, and that's a lot. And so we very quickly had to figure out, like, what does this look like for us when it comes to building relationships with students, not just when they show up at church, but probably as important, and you can make the case maybe more importantly, outside of the church time frame, the Sunday morning time frame, or maybe the Wednesday night, if that's what your week looks like at church. So we, practically speaking, here's what we did. My wife and I sat down and we just said, what are some things that we do every week as adults that we could include a student to join us for? So for my wife, that was, hey, I go grocery shopping every Sunday afternoon after church. Let me see if I can take some girls along with me. And that way I get to spend some time with them, and I'm leveraging time frame that I already have. For me, I had a little bit more disposable time because I was a vocational youth pastor at that point. So it was a part of my job to, get out of the office at times and, go hang out with kids. And so some of the classic things, that we all do, hanging out at games and going to musicals and, stuff like that. But my background, what I did was I just kind of leveraged my background, one as a basketball player growing up in high school and college, to go hang out with kids and play basketball a lot, and then also leveraged my background as a musician to hang out with kids who wanted to be a part of music. And for us, that eventually grew into the fine arts program that we were part of for years with the Assemblies of God. So practically we did that. Some of my small group leaders, to kind of maybe give you some ideas that are more for those of you that are volunteers, some of my small group leaders kind of took a similar page out of their book. You know what I mean? So I had one small group leader. Her name was Liz. Liz was one of my best small group leaders. She had a group of 6th grade girls, and she stayed their small group leader all the way through high school graduation, which is incredible. So she was a small group leader with these girls for 7 years. So you spend 7 years with kids, you're going to build great relationships. She discovered, and this is kind of funny, I still laugh about this to this day. You guys will laugh. This is funny. But she discovered that her girls loved doing sleepovers at her house that included cheesy, scary Christian movies.
Yeah.
like old school Thief in the Night type vibes. And so like that worked. And so that's what she did. And I kid you not, man, those girls, even after they graduated high school, anytime they come back home from college on a break, they wanted to hang out with Miss Liz. One of my other small group leaders is a guy named Dan. Dan loved fixing cars. And so Dan decided that he was going to do a project with his small group boys. And every Saturday morning for a couple months, whichever boys wanted to come over to his house, that he was going to work with them to help fix up a car that then they were going to turn around and they were going to donate to a single mom in the church. And so it was one of the coolest things I ever saw. Cool. Yeah, a small group leader do, because these boys are actually learning something skill wise, hanging out and building a relationship, while at the same time doing something for a really good cause, for a single parent in the church. So sometimes if you're the leader in your youth ministry, whether you're, paid staff or volunteer, but you're the point person, sometimes you have to feed your volunteers some ideas to kind of get them rolling, right? And put a little effort into like, what's going to work with my group of kids? What are my kids interested in? How can we do that? I know some youth pastors and youth leaders that are building relationships with kids because they're just hanging out online, playing video games and stuff. That was not my thing, but it worked for others. So practically speaking, identify what you're already doing as an adult that you could involve a student in, or that you can invite a student to be a part of, because we're all pressed for time. And it's definitely hard to be the adult who says, I'm going to go out there and spend hours a week, going to students' games and their musicals and, hanging out exclusively with them. I had to multitask it.
Yeah, that's good. So you connected with the family piece, and you gave some pretty alarming statistics in the first video that we watched in session 1 regarding kind of the nature of families right now, and the culture of the support structure of the family and how that's starting to erode a little bit. And you connect that obviously in the Show Me to this demonstrating living a life that is one that they may not see at home. Can you take a little bit of time and talk to us? How does the accountable, loving Christian adult leader come alongside those families that may not have the same worldview, right? Their parents may not be saved. They may not agree with the same kind of Christian worldview. How do we model and show them what does it look like to invest in the faith of their student, or as we invest in the faith of their student, but them not push back against their parents and have this moral high ground with them now that they're saved and their parents aren't, but I don't have to listen. I have found sometimes in my years of youth ministry, there was some tension between the Christian student and their parents. And do you have any suggestions or any input into both how do we help that student navigate that, and how do we come alongside them and come alongside their parents regardless of their faith background?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Remember you said you guys were going to ask me questions that were going to make me weep. So, all right, thanks. Good job. No, that's tough. That's a really tough question. And I don't know that there's any easy answer. Yeah. I'll just reflect back on some different ways that we tried to make that work. So on the student side first, you always need to remind your Christian students who are living in homes with one or both parents that are, not saved or not attending church, or maybe even a little antagonistic towards the faith, right? Mm-hmm. You're always needing to remind those students that when the Bible says honor your parents, there's no exemption clause to that statement. There's no honor your parents unless, of course, your parents don't deserve honor, or honor your parents unless, of course, they don't attend church. Then it's okay to treat that, so that's part of discipling a young person and helping them, understand what it means to be a fully devoted follower of Christ. Mm-hmm. Secondly, in relation to students, I found myself that I needed to always remind students that their parents, regardless of healthy relationship, unhealthy, part of the church, not a part of the church, lots of tension, no tension at all, regardless of those things. And that's not to minimize that in the life of a student, but regardless of those variables, those are your parents, and they're going to be with you long haul. Yep. And so I told kids often, like, listen, I might be youth pastor right now, or you might even view me as spiritual dad right now, but that's only right now. Mm. One day you're not going to be here, or I'm not going to be here. One day you're going to head off to college somewhere, or, like whatever, like I'm not here with you long haul. We might be maybe in a rare occasion friends for life, but our relationship is going to change at some point, especially after you graduate high school, it's going to change. Whereas your parents, regardless of the current intention you might have, young person, your parents, like they're going to be there for you when you graduate high school. They're going to be there for you when you head off to college. They're going to be there for you when you get married. They're probably going to be the ones that are going to help you when you have your first kid, when you buy your first house, all of these things. And so I think it's helpful to help. Teenagers tend to wear blinders in all of their relationships, pretty much in every area of their life, but they tend to wear the blinders, right? They can become very narrow-minded. They just see what's directly in front of them. And I think one of the opportunities we have as spiritual moms and dads, as youth leaders, is discipleship should broaden their perspective about life, right? Discipleship should broaden their depth about what life is going to be like and what's ahead of them in the future. Otherwise, teenagers tend to cash it all in and say, forget it. If it doesn't work right now, I don't want it. And so you have to remind students of biblical principles like reaping and sowing. You have to remind students of biblical principles like honoring parents. And you have to remind students that your relationship with your mom and dad might not be what you want it to be right now, but I guarantee you at some point in the future, you're going to want them in your life.
Yeah.
You're going to want their involvement when you're having your own family, when you're buying your own home. You have to help teenagers see that, give them a broad view from that perspective. So I think that's on the teenage side. When you're dealing with parents who are not in your church, who are maybe even antagonistic, I don't know that you have any other position to hold as a youth leader, volunteer, or a vocational youth pastor. I don't know that you have any other position to hold other than, hey, we're just here to partner with you, to help, to assist, to support. You're not their parent. You're never going to be their parent. Being a spiritual father, spiritual mother doesn't give you the authority or the responsibility that the actual physical parent has, right? So you do need to hold yourself to that kind of standard and to that kind of boundary, or else you actually do more harm for the student than you do good. Right? If the parent gives you an opportunity to build relationship and maybe influence them and to partner with them on some things, that's wonderful. What a great opportunity. What an honor that is. But if that doesn't happen, you do have to play, I think, really strict to the rules of you're the parent and I'm going to honor the authority of the parent in the same way that I'm telling the young person to honor their parents as well.
Sure. And that's part of the show me as well, right? That's part of demonstrating for them how we honor and respect them. Because I have seen some parents get a little jealous of the relationship. Like, why are they don't share this stuff with me. They don't, they're not talking as vulnerably as me. And then I'm reassuring them like, hey, just so you know, I'm with you. I'm on your side. Be thankful that they're communicating with me, and I'm going to keep you in the loop of what's going on. And, now that I've got kids that are old enough too, I can reassure those parents, like, I'm so thankful they have other adults in their life that they can connect with, but it doesn't usurp their relationship with you.
And it's worth pointing out, we had a question come in and say, well, what does this look like when the kid has a parent who's abusive? So we need to say that obviously in unsafe, abusive situations, those are situations that need to be reported. And in fact, we are mandatory to report those situations if it's physical, sexual abuse or whatever. And so everything that we're saying does not mean that you don't take those necessary steps to protect the safety of the students that are involved.
And we've had,
and I would say on that, like, make sure it is wise for you as a youth pastor, or again, I mean, in my mind, that phrase is interchangeable. That when I say youth pastor, you could be vocational, you could be volunteer and the leader. So just so I'm clear on that, but it is wise for you as the youth pastor to build a relationship with your local government agency that probably is called like Child and Youth Protection Services or something like that in your area, right? It's good for you to be on a first name basis with them, because what you can then do is you can call your rep there. We did this all the time. You can call your rep there. Hey, it's Aaron from GT Church. Hey, I would like to run a scenario by you anonymously with no names, and I'd like for you to give me the legal opinion on this.
That's good.
We did that all of the time because we weren't always sure, is this something that needs to be sometimes it's clear this needs to be reported, but sometimes you're dealing with a very emotional student who might be exaggerating certain things and you don't really know. And so you don't want the weight and responsibility of unilaterally making that call and making that decision, right? So it's good to lean on some of your professionals in an anonymous way. Here's the scenario, here's the situation. Give me your professional opinion on it. We did that oftentimes, and that relationship was really valuable for us.
Yeah, that's good. And the same thing is true with the school counselors and stuff like that, the relationship you have in connection with them. I also tried to remind myself when I was meeting with a student, two main things. One, when a student would come to me and would be like, hey, I got to tell you something, but you can't tell my parents. I would always have the conversation with them. Hey, thank you so much for being willing to trust me with whatever this is, because clearly it's a big deal. But then also trust that if we decide together that your parents need to know, I'm in this with you. We'll go together. We'll go and find them. But I'm not going to give blanket anonymity, a blanket covering of, we're not going to share anything. Because sometimes there's a lot of things that we do need to bring their parents into the conversation on.
And I took that same approach, Mark. And then I typically would say I typically always chose to give the student the opportunity to be the one to talk to their parents about whatever it was. And so usually my approach would be, hey, your mom and dad need to know about this. I think you should be the one to tell them. I'm going to give you 3 days to do that.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to circle back with you to see how that conversation went. And if after 3 days you haven't done it yet, then you and I are going to work out a time where we can both together go and meet with your parents. And then I'll just be right there with you when you tell your parents, giving them a second opportunity. Right. I had to do this with one of my students who was involved with our student ministry. He was one of our musicians, and he was like a young worship leader in the youth ministry, a student worship leader. He got sexually involved with his girlfriend. His parents were board members in the church. He was terribly embarrassed because of this whole scenario. I gave him 3 days to tell his parents. He couldn't do it. Then we invited his parents to come in. We sat and talked with them, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't tell his parents. And so then finally I was the one who told them. But I gave him as a young man every opportunity to basically grow up and man up in a sense of like, I'm going to be the one to, tell his parents. Now that situation is different because I'm dealing with parents who were saved and in the church. And so it's a potentially different context or scenario. If you're dealing with parents who are antagonistic towards the church or don't have any relationship with you at all, you might have to manage those kind of situations differently. But I think it's so important that we don't. Part of the discipleship process in the life of any person is not having people around them that enable them by doing things for them that they could and should do for themselves.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. So that's true for us as adults. If you have people in your life that are always taking the brunt for you and doing it for you, or parents in your life that are enabling you to continue to live and, with bad habits, like that's not helping you grow up at all. And so we have to have the right view when it comes to discipling a young person. I'm not going to do for you what you can do for yourself.
Yeah. And that's why, maybe that to some degree is why it's so important to then also partner with those parents and invest in them as well. And even if they don't have the same Christian worldview as you, you can still train and equip parents on kind of universal parenting stuff that doesn't even specifically have to do with a specific faith, but you're showing them, hey, we're investing in you, we're pouring into you, anything related to social media and online safety, anything related to just general parenting, Gen Z specific, youth culture specific stuff. And as you open that door and they invite you in to have interactions, then there is those great opportunities to even disciple and pour into the lives of their parents as well. But if the only interactions you ever have with them are either when their kid is in trouble and you need to talk to them, every parent wants their kids celebrated. Every parent wants to hear good news about what's going on with their kids. And, as many touch points as you have, the greater the opportunity for influence in their lives as well.
Hey, we've got about 4 minutes left, Aaron, and I did want to have one final kind of question that came in. So you talked about the show them, and one of the pieces was kind of about authenticity and being real and showing them your real life, and the other piece is really modeling Christian character. Could you talk about the balance between those two? How do we be leaders who are authentic? And I think that's a value held highly in this next generation. But how do we also sometimes being authentic is displaying some things that we're not the most proud of. So what advice
Right.
would you have for youth leaders about both modeling godly character but also modeling authenticity?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's unique about Gen Z students is they they have a high degree of skepticism when it comes to adults and to adult leaders. Um, Social media has amplified that, has exaggerated that. I actually think that might be one of the reasons why God is choosing to pour out these little movements of revival around the country right now through very unplugged Gen Z type environments where you don't have, like the big personality that is the speaker or the minister or the worship leader and whatnot, because Gen Z students have seen in the adults in their life, they've seen so many activities that have discouraged them or have produced criticism or skepticism. So all that to say, foundationally, I think we need to be as transparent, as authentic as we possibly can be. Where do you draw the line, practically speaking? I would say, I don't think it's wise for you as a leader to be transparent or authentic about current struggles that you're going through, significant current struggles. Like, so just to give like an example, like, it's probably not wise for you if you're a leader to tell students, oh, yes, I am currently wrestling with my addiction with pornography. So, because I'm currently wrestling, I can help you. I think you have to have some degree of victory in an area before you can begin to lead students in that area. It's hard to lead people where you've never been yourself. So it's hard to lead them into victory or freedom in an area in your life that if you've not experienced yourself. That said, though, once you have victory in an area, right, or if it's not as sensitive of an area, something like that, then like be real, be transparent, tell them, hey, here's stuff we've gone through in life. The value of that is that when you do that as a leader, you're modeling for students the Bible works, discipleship works, prayer works, God's on my side. I'm going through storms just like you're going through storms, and I'm making it through because God's bringing me through. He's going to do the same thing for you. So there's great value in students seeing that, not just in the context of a sermon or a Bible study, but actually seeing that in the life of an adult. So when my wife and I were in youth ministry and we went through a miscarriage, we were very open about that. That wasn't easy, but we were very open about that because, I wanted students to know, hey, life hurts sometimes and grief is a part of life. I don't have it all figured out. I don't have all the answers for this, but here we go.
Yeah.
In the last year of my life, we've been a family in grief. We lost a spiritual daughter to suicide last year, almost a year ago now. And I've just chosen to be very open about that, not because I've conquered grief and because I have all the answers and solutions for it, but I just think there's more value in younger leaders or younger students that you're discipling and influencing to be able to see you're a real person with real needs and you serve a real God who's showing up on your behalf. And students, this generation needs to see that more than ever before. So I say I'm on the side of be as authentic and as transparent as you possibly can be. If you have a check in your spirit, if you feel like I'm not sure whether this is something I should share with students, then go to a spiritual authority in your life and talk to them about it first before you reveal that to a student. Go to your pastor, go to whoever the main leader is in your youth ministry, your youth pastor, go to your own spiritual father, spiritual mother. Hey, how would you advise me, in this situation? But kids need to know that the gospel works.
Yeah.
And one of the main ways they see that is in the lives of adults whose lives are not perfect, but they're still living for Jesus, whose lives are not storm-free, but they're still serving God and God's still working on their behalf.
That's great.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Aaron. Thanks, everybody who sent questions in. We had a couple that maybe we couldn't quite get to, but we'll look to maybe wrap those into some other sessions. So we're going to start session 2 now, and then followed by your discussion time after that. And then our next live Q&A will start at 11:30. So we'll go live about 5 minutes before then. We'll be here just hanging out if you get done early. Otherwise, we'll see you guys at 11:30. Enjoy session number 2.